Hello, everyone. Welcome to That GD Show once again. Here we are. You'll notice that Genevieve is not with us tonight. She's off, and filling in for Genevieve is the lovely Cynthia McDonald. Hello, Cynthia.
Hi, Dave.
We've got
Hemant.
Yeah, there we go.
I was going to say the names
right,
at the bottom.
Over this way. There we go.
There we go.
And it's no mystery now because it's already been shown, but Hemant Mehta is with us tonight. Hello, Hemant.
Hi.
Good to have you with us.
This is fun.
And Cynthia is for you guys that don't know it, she's the face behind the scenes. She's the person who created our intro video and outro video. And how about that rocket intro music, Hemant? Have you ever?
I like it. I had not heard that before. I was watching Wrapped with Attention. I had not heard that before.
Yeah, we love that. It gets me going every time.
Yeah.
Well, we're glad to have you with us, Hemant. I've been a big fan of yours for a long time, and I really do appreciate you coming on the show. And we're just going to talk about a lot of interesting things tonight. We've got some calls coming in already. I got cookies. Thank you for that super chat, $5. It was a pleasure speaking with you on the Sunday show last night. Daryl Ray and I were on that last night. We had a good old Daryl Ray. Yeah, he's a mess, isn't he?
He's a hoot.
There are so many people I don't think I've seen in person because of the pandemic that maybe in the near future I'll finally be able to see some people again. I'm excited about that. But Daryl being one of them, haven't seen him in forever.
Oh, yeah, we always have such a good time when we're together. Speaking of seeing in person, because you and I haven't met, Hemant, and we're going to be at a conference together in August in Ontario, and I'm looking forward to that. So we're going to get to hang out.
It's going to be fun.
Yeah. Little housekeeping. We do have it's a call-in show, so the number to call is 217-375-9933 or WWDD, what would Dave do? That's the question on everyone's mind tonight. We do ask you to like and subscribe because if you do, wonderful things happen. I don't know what they are, but I've been told that really good things happen if you like and subscribe. And if you really like what we do and want to support our work, we'd appreciate you becoming a Patreon supporter. We do love the super stickers. They help us a great deal. There's Cairo Wolf, $20. Thank you, my friend. He's the graphic designer behind my book cover. And speaking of my book, since y'all brought it up, I've been asked about signed copies, and I do that when we're not traveling and I'm home. We can send out some copies. Just email me at daveoutloud@gmail.com, and we'll be happy to do a signed edition of my memoir. And speaking of memoir, so what we've done, we've started this. We kind of interrupted it the last couple of weeks, but we do a trivia thing every week to win a GD Show coffee mug. And it's a trivia question out of my book. So there it is, that GD Show.
Nice.
So if you want to win a coffee mug, you have to answer the trivia question. And the first person that does that in the chat correctly will get the mug this week. And the trivia question this week is really easy. And it's this: who did I dedicate my book to? Who did I dedicate my book to? So this is a really clever way to get people to buy my book.
I figured it was good.
I'm a shameless self-promoter. No, we have fun with it. And Anton Gomez, a regular viewer from Mexico, $44 Mexico. Hemant, do you identify as an activist? So there's our first question.
That's an interesting question. I mean, so I don't know. I guess that's for you guys to figure out and not me. I can tell you in terms of activism, what would be the goal of my activism? It is not to make people atheists because I don't care. I genuinely don't care. I put out articles because it's a way to unleash it's a way for me to vent in a formal, responsible way. And I hope it changes minds, but it's not changing them to become atheists. I don't work formally with any atheist organization anymore. I used to. That's not because I don't like them. I respect what a bunch of them do. But in terms of activism, I guess if there is activism, it's I want people to be rational and sensible and kinder and more tolerant and more reasonable. But that doesn't necessarily mean they're atheists, because I feel like a lot of my stuff that I put out there is meant for plenty of religious people too. I want religious people to read what I'm writing and say, you know what, I believe in God, but I agree with what you're saying here. And if that works, then great, cool. I mean, isn't everyone online who has any kind of platform? We're all activists. We all want people to agree with us. But I mean, listen, if atheists are wrong or they do something stupid, hi, Richard Dawkins. I mean, like, you know, if they say something, then you call them out for that. If Bill Maher says something idiotic on a show, you call them out for that.
Right.
Like, I'm not putting some goal of atheism above just trying to get people to be sensible, I guess. So I don't know if that answers your question.
Yeah, and I think it does. I mean, for me, I think it makes good sense because I got cookies again. Hemant, I absolutely love your Bible reading on your channel. Hi, Cynthia. And there's our friend Greg Markowski every week, $19.99. Thanks, Dave, Cynthia, and Hemant for this show. He's just such a faithful viewer. That term activist, it kind of puts me off as well. I don't, I've been called that now in the last few years since I've been speaking and writing and doing shows like this, but it's like you, Hemant. I'm not trying to convert atheists. It's not a goal of mine to make more atheists in the world. In fact, I tell people this, I don't care what you call yourself. The term atheist is just simply my response to the God claim. It's not a worldview per se. If I've got a worldview, it's humanist, and I believe in the goodness of humanity and the goodness of humans. But
I mean, is Neil deGrasse Tyson like an activist for science? I mean,
no,
he wants
a science activist, right?
You know what I mean? Like everyone who is in the space we are all in online, trying to persuade people to see things the way we see them. You're going to get called an activist, but I don't know. At that point, that word loses all meaning. I feel like it may be more apt for people who literally get paid to work for an organization fighting for a cause. And even when that's the case, like it all depends on what you're doing, whether I want to call you an activist or a propagandist or whatever you are, you know what I mean? So,
yeah. How do you answer that question, Cynthia? You do a lot of work in this space.
Yeah, I do a little something. I will definitely have to say, Hemant, that on the nonprofits, your writing is a go-to for us, especially when we do my favorite segment, Shit Internet Apologists Say. And I just like to pause it. But to the question, like, would you consider yourself an activist? I mean, sure, but I sometimes think that word is kind of like thrown out willy-nilly, I guess. But I think that I kind of lean on what you guys are saying. Like, we all have like a space that we occupy in doing what we do, right? And whether for writing, whether for speaking, whether if we are or even just trying to get like something changed for the better for humanity. I think that in some cases, we do. I think that even like when I look at like your writing, Hemant, and also like with your commentary on like certain things that happen in politics, which I was wanting to talk to you more about. There is some type of activism work going on, in my opinion, only because it's there to you're filling the space to kind of like educate people and making people aware of some of the things that there's going on that they may not necessarily pay attention to.
That's true.
Because they may kind of like unplug from like the standard media organizations that a lot of us, like,
Right.
oh my gosh, if I hear, MSNBC say one more thing about Trump, or if I hear, one more person on Fox News say something dumb, I mean, and they just kind of like, are just kind of like jaded and they just like disconnect, right? But when you use your platform to kind of like say like, hey, this is what's going on, but you put it in a way that is more digestible, in a way that can be considered activism because you're making people aware and you're educating them.
Well, and thank you. I appreciate that. I mean, and that's the thing, right? Like we're all trying to persuade people. We all want to get them to see things. And like, I'm lucky enough that I can do this sort of thing full time. So like, I totally get that some people want to check out from paying attention to this stuff day in and day out. And you know what? It's my job to do that and let you know what's important, hopefully. So in that sense, again, sure, if you want to call that activism, sure, it's activism. But again, I guess the question I would ask to anyone who's questioning that is, well, what's the goal of the activism? Because if you want to call me an atheist activist, I'm telling you, my goal is not to make you an atheist. Like if that happens, cool. Like I'm not upset, but I'm not sitting here with a tally mark, on the background, scoring points every time someone does that, because
why not, Hemant? Why not?
The wall would be just full.
But
you know how it is.
There's the answer to the question. Gary Kaminska, Steve. Steve was my best friend. He was a guy I pastored with, and well, I won't spoil it. If you haven't read the book, I won't spoil it. Because read the book.
Read the book. And you need to sign my Kindle, Dave.
I don't know how to do that.
I'll send you a
knife, etch it in.
Yeah. Vicky Les, we'll get to your question in a minute. That's a good one. I do want to get to this call that we've had waiting for a little bit and get you guys to comment on that. We've got Hippie Sheila. I love that. She, her from Kentucky. The need for secular clergy at hospitals. Husband has trauma and Muslim targets him. Hello, Sheila. Are you with us?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me okay?
Yes. Hi there. Hippie humanist.
Hi. I'm so happy to talk to you all. My husband and I, when we watch your GD show, we just feel like you're a lifeline.
Oh, good. Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
That means a lot. How can we help you tonight? Your husband recently had surgery, is that correct?
Yes, he had open heart surgery, and I really want him to be able to talk to somebody to come through, be able to come in and help him through this. He's going through a really rough time, and anytime he's in pain, feeling trauma, from being sick, it's kind of like a trigger, and it makes him remember he was tortured for 18 months daily, and he was in 3 different concentration camps, and only because his name is Muslim. He's a lifelong atheist. He's never gone to any kind of, synagogue or church or nothing. But just, kind of like the Jewish people, if you had a Muslim name, you were targeted for genocide. So he's in this very vulnerable state right now in the hospital, feeling a lot of pain. And it's kind of, like anytime he feels pain and hurt, it's like remembering what he's been through. It kind of brings those memories back. And I just wish there was a secular therapist here, or not therapist, but clergy he could talk to. And I did call the clergy's office. They do not have such a person. I reached out on Twitter, and somebody did give me a couple of names, but they're like a couple hours away, and I've emailed them waiting for a response, and right now there's nobody. And I guess I didn't realize that there is such a need, but everybody in the hospital who is theist, they have the opportunity to feel hope, to receive some kind of hope, and he doesn't.
Yeah. That's true. Hospitals do not have, in my experience, there's not a secular, non-religious chaplain. The chaplains usually are either Catholic or Protestant. So yeah, that's a problem. Even in a non-religious hospital, that seems to be the case. Have you guys experienced anything different, Hemant or Cynthia?
Do we know if your husband is in a Catholic hospital, or is he in a just general public hospital?
He's in a
university.
He's in a university hospital.
Mm.
And what
I
city?
don't know
Did you say you're close
if
to?
it is.
What city, Hemant said, are you close to, Sheila?
I really don't want to say.
Oh,
Sure.
okay.
Yeah,
That's okay.
Did you say
You're in
what
Kentucky.
state?
You're in Kentucky, right?
Yes.
I mean, to add to Dave's point, I mean, you're right. Most of the time, they're going to provide you. The hospitals will have chaplains at their disposal, but they're usually Christian in nature. However, most of those chaplains, with exceptions, obviously, but most of those chaplains, if you tell them, I am non-religious, but I would like to talk to someone, they usually, many of them do have the training to help out, and they will meet you where you're at. So I wonder if that's a possibility, even if the chaplain in question happens to come from a faith background, because usually, again, if they're trained in the chaplaincy, they are trained to help everybody regardless of their faith, and there are bound to be non-Christians at the hospital too. If you want to reach out, and I know my contact information will be somewhere on the screen, or you could provide it in the sidebar for anybody. If you want to reach out to me, I'll see if I can connect you with some groups in the area who might know more about local resources that might be accessible to you. Cynthia, I don't know if you wanted to add
That
anything
would be
to
awesome.
Yeah, I do. And you're right. It's very difficult to actually find like a non-theistic or even like a chaplain that can come like from like a secular point of view, or kind of just like leave the whole religious thing out of it. I see it a lot. I'm actually a medical case manager, so it's yeah. So and usually like a lot of what my job is just trying to get my patients resources, and sometimes it is with therapy, and recovering from religion does have a secular therapy project. I'm pretty sure that like within like the chat of somebody, if the producer can put that number up, that would be great.
Yeah, Ethan will do that for us.
Yeah, because like, that would be a good start. I do believe that those, a lot of those therapists do have telehealth. So even if you're not in the same state or city, they still can sometimes provide a way for you to speak with them virtually. Right. I totally recommend that, and especially like dealing with like PTSD and trauma. It really can inhibit the healing process for anybody. I always, even with like my patients, I work with patients that are living with HIV, and a lot of them have comorbidities as well that are challenged, because like you have to control like the HIV virus plus treat whatever else is going on with them, and a lot of times they're bound to take like medications like every day, and they can get pill fatigue, and then they start to kind of go back into their mind about a lot of different things that happened to them that even brought them to this point, and then they start to kind of like relive in a circular motion over and over again. So really trying to connect them with like behavioral health resources was usually like one of my first goals, because I know that in order for your physical body to recover, your mental health is also integral for that as well. So I would definitely recommend the Secular Therapy Project through Recovering from Religion. We were just talking about Daryl Ray. He's a hoot and a half, and they've actually even like with the Freedom from Religion. I'm sorry, Recovering from Religion. That's a different organization.
Yeah.
With Recovering from Religion, they do have, counselors, people that are volunteers that are trained, that are really great for you to talk to, and then can also really connect you with those resources as well. I've called them on more than one occasion, especially during my deconstruction. And so I would recommend anybody to really reach out with them, because that's a great resource to.
Yeah, and there are
hold
so
on
many.
to.
I mean, that's the thing about humanist chaplains too. I know someone was mentioning it in the comments. Like, they exist. They are trained to help you wherever you are, wherever you're at. But of course, they're coming at it from a secular background, and that is such a helpful resource because, like in your situation, usually the default is that everyone is religious. So sometimes when you tell someone, is there a secular option, you don't think there's anybody, but I promise you they are there. You just got to know how to look for them, and that can be difficult, but those resources are there.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And
Go ahead, Sheila.
I was just going to say, I never even thought of such a thing that might ever be necessary. And they gave me a couple of names of people who are several hours away, and I reached out to them, sent emails, and asked if they know of somebody in our area. And I'm hoping that I'll hear from them tomorrow.
Good.
As far as like the secular therapy, he's never talked to anybody, and I'm not sure that he wants to. But just to have somebody to be able to come in his room and provide a little support, and maybe just how clergy do. They try to uplift you and give you hope. And
you said that you're at that your husband is at a university recovering from surgery, correct?
A university hospital. Yeah.
A university hospital. It's connected to a school.
Yeah.
How about? I was going to just suggest, like, maybe perhaps they can connect you to the psychology department. You do have like a lot of students that may be going through like internships, and not all of them are coming from like a theistical background or point of view. Maybe just there just to be a listening ear. That's something that I would probably, ask about. Oh, and also talk to the hospital social worker. Everyone has one, and kind of tell them what you're looking for. They may be able to provide you with a resource as well.
Yeah,
I will do that. I just actually got her number, and so tomorrow I will contact her and see if we can find somebody, because I know there are a lot of clergy out there who, aren't trying to push religion, but honestly, he's been traumatized so much from people who have religious background.
Yeah.
He doesn't want to talk to somebody with religious background because it's traumatizing.
I totally understand that.
Good luck, Sheila. I hope
Sheila, would you
find what you need.
Reach out to me offline tonight or tomorrow, if you would, Sheila, and because I know some people in Kentucky and some ex-clergy possibly close enough to you, and at the very least, I'd be happy to get on the phone with you guys tomorrow, you and your husband. I'm not a trained therapist, but I was a pastor, and I gave hours of totally unqualified counsel to my church members, but I do know how to go sit and be in the room with someone. I really did a lot of that, actually, and was pretty good at that. I was told.
My husband loves you so much. He doesn't know you, nor do I. And just when I think that would mean the world to him. He's really weak and has a hard time talking, but maybe just to hear your voice and to know that you cared enough to call in
Absolutely.
and reach out.
We will do that for sure tomorrow, okay?
Okay. Can I send you a message on a private message on Twitter?
Yes,
I'm
please,
following you and you're following me.
please do. And we'll make a connection
Okay.
on there, and I'll follow up tomorrow. We'll have a conversation.
Okay. And thank all of you so much from the bottom of my heart. I so much appreciate it.
You bet, Sheila. We're glad we're here for you, hon.
Good luck.
Good luck to
Thank
you, Sheila.
you. Have a good
Your
night.
husband.
All righty.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you. Bye-bye. Bye.
Oh, my. Going to have me crying here in a minute.
I know. I'm just like,
Golly. I tell you what, it's just, it's just humans being humans to each other. That's all this is.
yeah.
And all she's
Also
needing is, go ahead.
Also
Hemant.
called activism.
Yes.
Also called-
That's really all it amounts to, is we're just trying to be good humans with each other.
Yeah.
And it's not that hard. And it's the reality is, I realize this now, but when I was a pastor and I would go into a hospital, I've been in many hospitals, I've been in people as they died, and serious situations. And I would pray with them, but I realize now that the prayer was doing nothing. What was helping them was my presence, just my presence in the room, just another human being there. And that's all she's needing. And it's just such a simple need. And her husband doesn't want any religious bullshit in the room, doesn't want that baggage hanging over him. He just wants a human that he can connect with and feel some kind of comfort from. And my God, that's all we're needing. That's all we're needing to do.
Exactly.
Yeah. So that was so sweet. Yeah.
You didn't tell me that I was working after hours, Dave. That's all.
Girl, you come on my show, you're going to have to work. You're going to have to work. We do the work here, girl.
I see.
Ethan, would you put that chat back up that had the question? There we go. Viculus. I don't know how to say that. Thank you for your super chat. Big fan, I think, of you, Hemant. Maybe of Cynthia, but definitely not of me. Do you think Pastor Locke, oh God, violated the Johnson Amendment with his every breath he takes, with anti-democrat rant at church? What do you think, guys?
Yeah. First of all, I got to apologize. I had to, because we're doing this show at night, I had to hide in a room with relatively little lighting. So I apologize if I'm out of focus here.
That's okay. We know who you are.
To answer the Greg Locke question. So last Sunday, like a week ago, this pastor in Tennessee basically delivered a rant in his circus tent church, where one of the many things he said was, you cannot be a Christian and vote for Democrats, basically saying those two are separate things. You have
devil,
to vote for
you devil of hell.
Yep. You got the accent better than I do. So basically that's what he said. And of course, when I posted that clip, the response from, damn near everyone on Twitter, I think it's up to over like 2 million people watching that clip now. The response from everyone is alert the IRS, make them do something, because isn't that violating the Johnson Amendment? Isn't that playing politics? Isn't that the one thing nonprofit groups and churches are not supposed to do? Because you can say as a church leader, we oppose abortion and gay rights. But what you can't do is say, because of that, you should vote for candidate XYZ. And isn't it playing politics like that, telling people who to vote for? If you say you can't be a Christian and vote for Democrats, I would argue, we all know what he's saying there. But here's where it gets a little weird, because first of all, the IRS historically hasn't done anything about this.
No,
they've been sued. They've been sued over that exact thing. Like, you're not doing anything. Literally, Christian churches want to fight you on this because they don't think they should even be restricted like that. So they will hold services where they tell everyone how to vote for, and they film it, and then they send the tape to the IRS saying, haha, we did it. Take away our tax-exempt status so we can sue you and get this whole thing struck down. But anyway, the IRS never does anything. I think it's happened once in like the past 20 years, and it was like small church, egregious case, just ridiculous. But that's it. So, did he violate the Johnson Amendment? Arguably, yes. Will anything happen because of that? No, probably not, even in the best of circumstances. But here's what's weird, because I spent the past couple of days, because he did it again. On yesterday, Sunday, Locke gets back up on his circus stage, and he says, I told the IRS to get rid of our 501c3 status, to get rid of our nonprofit status, because that gives him, I guess, license to tell people how to vote. But the thing is, that's not just a thing you can tell the IRS to do. You don't suddenly say, like, hey, we decided to play politics, so bye-bye. Like, what form do you fill out to do that? I can't call the IRS randomly on a whim to tell them that sort of thing. But the thing is, if you look at any database, it's like no one can seem to find this church in any database of nonprofit groups, including churches. It's not even clear he ever was a church. If you go to donate on his church's website, it's not like they pretend to be tax exempt. They don't say your donation's tax deductible. So I don't even know if he is a nonprofit church. I don't know. I don't believe him when he says we called the IRS and told them to do this. I think he got spooked, maybe, from all these people clamoring for them to lose their exempt status. But the thing is, like, and he did say this, and I think he's right. Most of the people who donate to his church are not the type of people who do it because they want like a tax deduction. They do it because they're mesmerized by him, and they're not keeping track of the money, really.
They're cult followers. Yeah.
They are.
Yeah, so I don't even know if it all matters in the long term. But to answer the question, did he violate the Johnson Amendment? Yeah, he pretty clearly did. And in a rational world where everyone followed the rules, the IRS would revoke his tax exempt status because he's going so far beyond preaching the gospel or preaching a certain cause. And they won't do that. And even he's taken it a step further in trying to pick a fight that doesn't. He loves picking fights when no one's fighting.
Yeah.
He's like Fox News. He just has to create outrage when there isn't outrage.
Yeah.
He'll call out witches in his congregation or whatever, whatever he can get all ramped up about. He's a dog and pony show.
Yeah.
Carnival barker. He's a carnival barker.
Send him more glitter bombs and dildos, everybody.
My favorite protest of Locke has been people making donations to Planned Parenthood in his honor because he got all the thank you cards, and he foolishly, before he knew the internet like he does now, he like would make these Facebook videos where he's like, you guys, I have this box of thank you cards from Planned Parenthood. Well, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna burn this box. And of course, you know what happened next. Everyone's like, oh, you're getting all the cards? Because we're going to keep donating that.
Yeah, this is not going to go well for you. Well,
I'm very curious. I'm very curious if anything happens with the IRS. I don't think it will, but
my goal in life to follow Andrew Seidel is to get my book burned by Greg Locke on Twitter. I mean, I can think of nothing higher in life.
I'm gonna write a book just so that Greg Locke can burn it.
Yeah. Just put him on the cover.
Say totally. Greg Locke is crazy. He loves to be outraged, and I've really kind of got a fancy. His church is near Nashville, on the outskirts of Nashville. I know where it is, and so I don't know the location, but I could find it. Next time I'm in Nashville, I've got a little more of a kind of a weird
elephant and the trapeze and the
I just kind of want to go and watch the show, and maybe I could act like a witch or something.
He has invited me to come to his service. Yeah, he's like, I'll fly you in, come for a service, and I'm like, I don't want to catch COVID. Like,
right?
Yeah, that's true.
He literally put a sign in front of the circus tent that said, like, you literally cannot wear a mask and come in here because he's, again, like you said, Dave, it's a church that's not run on gospel, it's run on grievance. He just hates everything, and he wants the irony. He's almost like Joel Osteen. Like, if you ever watch Joel Osteen's services, very smiley, happy. He never says anything offensive. But the thing is, he gets criticized by Christians because, like, if you watch a half-hour service on TV, Joel Osteen will cite like 2 sentences from the Bible and it'll show up on the screen at the bottom.
Right.
Mhm.
But really he's telling you a self-help story
Oh, it's
Right.
all
with
it is.
with
All that
reference to one line in the Bible, and it's anodyne and it's relatively fine. Greg Locke
Mhm.
does the same thing where like he'll mention a couple lines in the Bible, they'll show up on the screen, but
Mhm.
really it's just a stepping off point for
Right.
him to rail against whatever
Yeah, to
Democrats
rant.
are doing.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's a certain group of people that just eat that stuff up. They just lap
Oh,
it
yeah.
up.
Yeah, yeah. He's entertainment. You guys are right. It's totally dog and pony show.
Yeah.
And because like I remember like watching his Halloween address about
Mhm.
Samhain and like came up with this whole fairy tale of how like Halloween actually got started. That was great.
Oh, that was a while ago.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was
And
great.
of course, none of it was accurate.
Not
because
at
it
all.
doesn't
No,
matter.
not a bit.
Not
Not
at
a
all.
bit.
It never
Not at
matters.
all. Yeah. But even he said himself that like you know, there's Bibleisms and Lockisms, and usually he comes from Lockisms. And so, and I think that
If
like,
you
I
really,
would, yeah,
I'm sorry,
like
finish.
98. No, I was just gonna say like 98% of what he says is like Lockisms because it's like
Yeah.
only like maybe a Bible verse here, a chapter, and a couple verses there that's supposed to be like the foundational scripture, and then you know we're off to some crazy batshit thingy that's going to be happening anytime soon.
I was gonna say,
Yeah.
if you really want to get rid of him, Dave, what you got to do is find a way to shut down the Dunkin' Donuts in a 50-mile radius.
Yes.
He would move out of there in a heartbeat because for some reason that's the one thing he's obsessed with. That's kind of normal, but weird, but like okay.
I didn't realize that. I didn't
Yeah.
realize you
Really
were
likes
on
that
his
coffee.
invite list. We'll have to.
Oh yeah. We are.
You're
It was
tight.
so weird. Before he got banned from Twitter, we would DM regularly, and it's
Really?
always it's like 2 X's fighting all the time with him, but occasionally, like that was our relationship where it's like, dude, what the hell are you doing? What is this? And
Who
he's like,
started-
come on to my church, come
Who
check
fired
it
the
out. No,
first shot?
Yeah,
Who
well,
fired the?
who
I
was
don't-
it?
It's been a long relationship. I don't
Okay.
remember who started it. I've
It
known
sounds
the
a little
guy.
dysfunctional. It sounds a little dysfunctional.
I've known
I gotta
of
tell
him
you.
for a very long time, but like after he got banned from Twitter for the 1st through 8th time, and honestly, he blew up in a way that I'm disappointed by, but not totally surprised by. He's kind of in his own little stratosphere of mega cultism.
Oh yeah.
So we don't talk anymore though.
Yeah, he's on to bigger and better. We got another call, but I want to get back to in a minute to a little bit more of your story, Hemant, because I have some questions for you. But we've got Linda in Texas, she/her, talking about Unitarian Universalist in hospitals. Hey, Linda.
Hi. How
are you? Good. Good to have you on. How are you doing?
Good. Well, I was just responding to a caller you had a little bit ago.
Yeah.
With the hospital chaplains,
non-religious clergy people, right? Uh-oh, did we lose you, Linda? Are you there? I think we may have lost her.
All right, we'll get her back.
I think, if we did, Linda, if you maybe hang up and call back. Are you there? Well, whatever. I think her point was the Unitarian unit.
Yeah,
there you are.
Sounds weird. Okay.
You were going to talk about Unitarian Universalist clergy, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. Go ahead. Have you got a connection?
Well, it sounds all gargly. Maybe I'll try to. Yeah, maybe I'll try to call back in. Okay. All right. Thanks.
Okay, Linda. Sorry about that. That's a good point, though. If there's a Unitarian Universalist church in the area,
thank you.
Yeah.
They are very non-religious. Many of them are atheists. Very at the very least humanists. So I'll follow up with Sheila on that tomorrow and try to get her some help. She sounds like she's a bit overwhelmed right now, but Yeah, we'll try to get her some help. So Hemant, I go way back with you, not personally, but yeah, I learned of you pretty soon after my deconversion back in, I was done with faith by about 2011 or so. And I started looking online to find some resources and some people that I could connect with, relate with. And so I found you. You were doing a lot of writing with Patheos then, right?
Yeah.
And you're with, what is it now?
Now it's Only Sky.
Only Sky, right. I saw them at the American
us.
Atheist Conference, right.
Yeah.
A line from the John Lennon song, yeah.
Yeah,
Above us, Only Sky. I like that, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good platform, I hear. But
yeah, it's awesome. I mean, Patheos was this site where they thought, let's bring together people, let's be a hub for religious conversation. So
Right.
they had atheists, they had Mormons, they had conservative Christians, progressive Christians, what have you. And for what it's worth, it was great. Like, they found a way to do that for a long time. They always treated me pretty well. They made a business decision a couple years ago, maybe a little more recently. They made a business decision, like, it's really hard to get Christians to advertise on your website. Like, here's a book, everyone should buy it. It's hard to do that when, like, atheists are the most popular draw to your website, saying you don't need to read all that, it's trash. And like that creates a business problem for them. So they basically decided, we're going to go in a direction where faith is good. And if you're not on board with that, like, you could talk about atheism from your own perspective, but if you're just here to criticize religion, which kind of hard not to, even if you're...
I heard that the Mormon Church bought Patheos.
They've had conservative Christian owners. They've had some Mormon owners. There's some overlap. But again, they always gave me free reign to write whatever I wanted. So it's like, whatever. But anyway, they made that decision, and it's like, okay, either you're on board with their new vision or leave. And at the same time, while that was happening, Only Sky was started by basically someone who said, I think there's an audience of people who don't want to run on the default assumption that faith is a virtue. Like, let's assume it's not. Let's talk about why it's not. Let's talk about our lives as what Sheila called about is a perfect example of a real life, real situation that deserves to be responded to. And there's a lot of people looking for that sort of advice. And you're not going to find it in a lot of places. And so this is the idea of Only Sky. Like, what if we just go on the default assumption that atheism is the norm, and go from there? So you have personal stories. You have a scientist saying, here's what I got wrong because I changed what I believe. So it's a cool platform. It worked out for me to move from one to the other. But anyway, that's kind of where I moved. That's what I'm doing now.
I met them at the American Atheist Conference. They had a table across from mine, and so we're planning to have them on the show sometime soon.
Oh, fantastic.
Nice.
It's a bunch of awesome writers, people on staff, people contributing. Just, it's been awesome so far.
So I discovered you way back then, I think, and I saw your book. I sold my soul on eBay. Tell us about that. I found that to be a pretty fascinating venture of yours. What was that?
The short answer there, as short as I can make it, is that I had been working with a bunch of atheist organizations, like nonprofit groups, and everyone I pretty much met who worked for those groups, they were ex-Christians. They were Christians who became atheists. Right. I was not that. So it's not like they had an axe to grind or anything, but all their stories about religion were coming from the Christian world. And everything I knew about Christianity is stuff I basically learned secondhand, reading about it, talking to people about it, things like that, but never experienced it. I didn't grow up in it. So, like, back in the day when I'm like in the middle of quitting grad school, hate what I'm doing, got some free time, I basically posted an ad on eBay, because that was the thing you did, and said, I'll go to wherever you all want me to go to church for the highest bidder. The money is donated. I don't care, but like, give me something to do. I'm bored. I don't know.
Were you known as the friendly? Were you using the tag friendly atheist at the time?
Nope. Okay. I'm just random dude who's bored.
Just a random guy. Okay.
And a pastor won the auction, and he basically said, he knew the Christian landscape. I did not. And he
Uh-huh.
didn't live in Chicago where I'm near, but like he knew the landscape in Chicago. He's like, here's what we're going to do. Cause I owed him a year of church.
Oh,
like
wow.
every Sunday.
Oh, a year. I thought
a
just
year.
like go to one service.
No, I owed
Holy
him a
shit,
year.
what-
Again,
I hope you got some good money for that.
I was very stupid. So, but he said, I'll make you a deal. Why don't you go to like 10 services, but you're going to go to like a mega church. You're going to go to the south side of Chicago. You're going to go to a dude's living room because it's a brand new church. Like, and we won't tell anybody that you're going, but because a lot of these churches specifically have services designed for people like us who are not members,
Right.
where they're not heavy on the gospel. They want to draw you in. They are seeker services,
seeker friendly,
right?
seeker
So
friendly.
like, go there, be a seeker, and then after
Yeah.
you're done, write about it on his ministry's website, because he had a
Interesting.
ministry where he was trying to fix Christianity. And that was our deal. I'm like, listen, 10 churches is better than 50 or whatever, so I'm good with that. And what was cool about it is the comment sections, for what it's worth, this is like 2006-ish. The comment sections were really positive. Like, if I didn't like something and I said that, you would have Christians saying, I hate that too. I go to these churches. I don't like it. You had atheists saying like, yeah, I didn't like hearing that sort of thing from the pastor. That's why one of the reasons I left. And after I was done with that experiment, I had a chance to write a book for a Christian company, which was odd, where they said, we like this. I know they basically said, we know evangelicals love reading about themselves. Why don't we send you to more churches after you're done? Separate thing, but kind of the same. So I went to even more Christian. I've been to church so many times, you guys. I went to a whole bunch of them, wrote about it in that book. I sold my soul on eBay, which is not what I said, but that was a more catchier title than, random dude is bored. And so that was it. But like, after I wrote that book, and again, it was my experiences going to these churches, what I liked, what I didn't like. The one thing I didn't have anymore is, for the first time, I had written about these experiences immediately after going to these churches. And it's like, oh, that was kind of fun because all these people were commenting and chiming in. And that was an awesome back and forth. It's like, it's this show. It's with the commenters. It's an awesome community you build. And so I was like, I want to kind of keep that going. Long story short, that Friendly Atheist started from there. That's when I started blogging. And it was much more personal back then. Now, I don't want you to know anything about me, but I'll write about news stories these days. But that's kind of how I started doing all this.
Yeah. Well, that's pretty fascinating, because I think you had an advantage. Most ex-Christians I know would get really triggered going into some of these churches. It'd be a really difficult, traumatizing experience for them.
I had no baggage. You are absolutely
You had no
right.
baggage. You're just in there like you're going to the movies. Okay, what's this movie gonna give me? Some fucking popcorn. Let's watch the show.
And let's be honest, as someone who did theater, coaches actors all the time, even today, when you go to some of those like Willow Creek mega church outside of Chicago, when you go to some of those bigger, even South Side, like all black church on the South Side, like you see performances.
It's a show.
It's not like the preacher on The Simpsons, very monotone and boring. You're seeing like the best speakers on stage, where even if you're not buying the Christian stuff, it's like, I could see why this is compelling. And I could totally see why people would want to be a part of this and why they feel connected. And it's been very, like, as an atheist, I haven't found a replica of that in a secular way. Even with some of those attempts at like atheist churches, so to speak, like it's not the same, but like I think that was kind of the most mind-blowing thing for me to see, like, oh, that's why so many people are drawn to this. Cause like they're really good at what they do. I just wish they use their power for good. They don't in so many ways, but like it was fascinating.
I'm curious, because like you went to churches, like mega churches like Willow Creek, and you also went to predominantly black churches like on the south side of Chicago, where I'm from, right?
Yeah.
I'm curious to know, like, and I guess like I just need to read, I sold my soul on eBay, but in a rundown, like, what are your thoughts in the differences that you like seeing like between white churches and black churches?
And granted, I'm giving you an answer to this based on my experience at those two places.
Right.
Not everything. What I appreciated about the black church that I went to is they didn't really even pretend to spend time dissecting the Bible verses or anything. It was there. It was present. I'm not like, it's not like they were ignoring it, but they were so much focused on bettering the lives around them and their community. And it was very social justice oriented. Whereas the predominantly white Willow Creek was very much like, this is the gospel message we got to take away. It helps you in the afterlife. But the black church is very much like, no, we're helping you here. Here's the tutoring we're doing in this zip code. Here is what we're doing. I mean, the atmosphere is amazing. And by the way, I have said this to atheist college groups too. It's, if you haven't been to these types of churches, and not just like the traditional ones or the mega church, but like all these different kinds. Because I went to like one that was led by a white woman, but in a predominantly Hispanic part of Chicago. Like the dynamics are wild, especially in bigger cities. And I've urged them as a group, go to those things. Don't go there because you don't like what they're saying and you want to be disruptive. No, go there for sociological reasons and go witness what they're doing. Go learn. Because I'm telling you, as someone who didn't grow up in it, that was a huge learning experience. My idea of what Christianity looked like if the spectrum was that big to begin with, like widened tremendously. Because like, man, I saw some of the boring, I saw some of the fire and brimstone places, but also you see some of these churches doing so much good community service and helping people. And it's like, I have a really hard time criticizing what they're doing, even though I think it's for the wrong reasons. But like, man, if more churches were like that, you're making it really hard as an atheist to make an argument as to why religion is not a virtue. But like, again, if you haven't experienced it, and most people, even churchgoers, have only experienced one type of church.
Right.
So go learn, go witness it. Even if you're an atheist now and you're bored, go do it. It's fun.
and if it, you know, I think that's a good suggestion, Hemant. And I know people would be really triggered, who would be really triggered doing that. And if that's the case, don't put yourself in danger. Unless you think maybe immersion therapy might heal you of that trauma. I don't know.
Right. I mean, there were some things that I heard in some of these places that were jarring, because it's like, it's one thing to watch like a Greg Locke video right now where it's like, holy shit, this guy is crazy and he's saying this stuff on stage. When you're in the crowd and you're seeing someone do that, and like, what's scary is you look around, it's like, oh shit, all of these people agree. Like, no, I'm the brown guy in this sea of
to your point,
like, it's weird.
To your point, it would be a learning experience though, because you know, I don't want to cast them as the enemy, but the phrase "know thine enemy," we need to know who we're up against, what we're up against in terms of what's going on in the country, especially with the recent surge toward Christian nationalism. You know, it'd be helpful to get in there and know what they're saying.
We see the clips online, but you don't see what happens before the service, after the service necessarily, how they connect with you. And by the way, to their credit, at some of the atheist conferences I've been to, I've met Christians who are doing the same thing in reverse, where like, they're not there to cause a scene, but they're like, we just kind of want to know what you guys talk about.
You guys are doing.
And it's like, I promise you, it's very boring. But but they're fascinated, because it's just,
we don't have all the tricks. I was on the backside of those church services as a pastor, and I saw the work that went into producing the show. I mean, it's the lights, the sound, the music is carefully orchestrated to elicit the response you want during the service. It's all very, very carefully curated.
Can I tell you something? In college, I had an atheist group. That's kind of my foray into activism. But one of the things we did is we would have discussions about stuff because there was nowhere else to have it. This is back in the day, like when the internet was very young. So like
Right.
you would have to have conversations in person. And so we would have these group discussions about like, does God exist? Wow, let's talk about it. And what was amazing, again, I lived in downtown Chicago at the time. You would have students coming from like a nearby conservative seminary, and they would come sit in on our meetings. And like, they were wrong about everything, but
Yeah.
they were polite and discussing these things and trying to make their case for why
Yeah.
God exists. And all of us are like, no, you're full of shit. Here's why. But they were like super nice. But the
Yeah.
thing, like at some point, it's like, so why do you guys come to our group meetings?
Right.
And their honest answer was, we actually like that you challenge us on these things, and you call,
Mhm.
like, you make us defend this stuff, because at school where they went to, they didn't get challenged. It was all taken for granted. Everything was assumed. And so like they valued the fact that they had to fight for their beliefs, and we were pushing them on that stuff. And like, you know, respect that they were willing to do that. But that's the thing, like you're saying, Dave, like putting yourself in thine enemy's camp, that is
I love
a valuable
engaging.
learning tool. Yeah.
I love
Yeah.
engaging. I did a talk at a university a couple of months ago while I was reading an excerpt from my book and doing a Q&A. And it's a secular university, but they posted on their site that the group, there was a secular humanist, Secular Student Alliance was bringing me in. And, you know, they used the word atheist, and man, some people in the community lost their shit.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Online. And, you know, the comments were just blowing up. But it sold me some books. But what was great, though, I did this talk in their room, and it was a great Q&A, great meeting. But afterwards, I realized what I'd seen. But there was this row of students that was sitting near the back, and I'm pretty good at reading a room, so I can always tell who's into the meeting and what I'm saying, and they weren't. And I just watched them. I'd catch them out of the corner of my eye. They're all lined up, and they're very clean cut, what you would think of as Baptist Sunday school students. And I looking back after the meeting, I realized, oh my God, that's a group of Christians that's come to check me out.
Yeah.
And down at the end, I'm down signing books and I'm chatting with people. And one of the guys from that group was at the very end started asking me some very pointed questions. And in the moment, I thought, oh, this guy's really wanting to learn how to engage with Christians. But no, he wasn't. He was engaging with me as an atheist. And I was just, every time I would answer him, he would just kind of pull, and I'm thinking, oh, well, he's really getting this. Good for him, And then afterwards, I was talking to Bevan, my partner, and she said, oh, no, he was there challenging you. I said, oh, well, shit, he didn't do very well.
The one I never understood is they will ask me like pointed questions about like evolutionary biology. It's like, buddy, I'm here talking about like the Republican Party. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not a biologist.
I know. Like you're at a university. Go over next door. There are
go take a class. How about that? It's funny because like when I was in school, I was also studying to be a minister.
Yeah.
And we would get like those, talks going back and forth about being challenged with our faith, especially like if you are in a university setting. Yeah. And I remember it was a few times where I was part of also a Christian sorority. And when I would table, when we would have like our student recognized organization day, and, people coming into the university want to check out the different organizations. And atheists will come and they would challenge me and ask me questions about, basically, what do you believe and why? And, and it's so funny when I think about some of the arguments that I've made about why I believe, I did the whole, well, look at the eye, look at the trees, look at the complicated, everything is designed, fine tuning, and then after a while I was like, damn, I was so stupid.
Oh, well, you didn't know what you didn't know.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. But I love
like without putting yourself in those different situations, you don't know what you don't know. And like that goes both ways. Sometimes, I mean, as someone mentioned it, which was a really nice comment, like sometimes you never know, a show like this or the commenters here, you may be the first atheist, open atheist that some of these
Right.
people have ever met. And
Yeah.
so the chance to talk about it, not be ashamed of it, like that alone can make a huge difference sometimes.
Yeah.
Well, there's the comment. Anton Gomez, again from Mexico, a super chat. Thank you, Anton. Hemant was the first self-disclosed atheist I ever saw on YouTube a very long time ago. Now, to that point, because you are known as the friendly atheist, and you are, by the way.
Lies.
But think about that. Think about that for a minute. If I'm the first one they see,
Right.
I want to present something. I want to present well. I don't want to be the angry atheist being the first one they see.
Right.
So let's think about what we're presenting to people that are finding us for maybe the first time. If I'm their first exposure to an atheist in the wild, I want to be someone that represents well.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
That's
actually
important.
the story behind that name, it's not because like I'm friendly and everyone else is a dick. Because I don't even think I'm that friendly or anything. The reason I had that name, lies. The reason I had that name though is because after when I Sold My Soul on eBay came out and I was doing interviews for it, people like I knew they were going to say like, well, if we want to know more about you, where can we go? And I didn't have a website or anything at the time.
Yeah.
So I'm like, fine, I got to create a website just so I can point people in that direction because they're going to forget the book in like 3 days.
Right.
And it's like, well, what do you want to name it? I had this conversation with a friend who was helping me with the site. Like, what do you want to name it? And I'm like, every time people say atheist at the time, because this is like the early stages of like the new atheism kind of movement. It's every time you see atheists in the news, they're always preceded by angry atheists, aggressive atheists,
hateful. Yeah, just hate
hateful.
God. They hate
and these are not adjectives they gave themselves. This is how the media was describing him. Like, this man's a militant atheist, Richard Dawkins or whatever. It's like he's not in the book he's writing or whatever. But the thing is, it's like, well, if they're gonna do that, I'm gonna force them to say something nice. So like, just call it friendly atheist, because that's the only way we're gonna get those two words next to each other.
And that's why I use the word atheist on purpose, because I want to destigmatize that word.
Right.
And so I really, when they asked about that, back to that college talk, they asked me, do you want us to use the word? Absolutely. Please use the word atheist.
Yeah.
And because we want to make sure that people are exposed to us and realize we're not angry, we're not evil, we're not stupid. We're just humans who don't believe in God, period.
Exactly.
And I think that, I mean, that's the good thing. That has changed. It's a long game, but like that is a thing that has absolutely happened where, and I've seen this firsthand because I've been involved in this movement for a really long time, which is that when I started doing this stuff in my college days, it was pretty hard to meet other atheists. And now it's like, I mean, granted, it depends on where you live and all that stuff, but like, it's not hard to find resources if you're having doubts about your faith. Honestly, if you go to a big public high school or college, you can't swing your arm without running into someone who's not part of some organized religion at the very least. And so it's like that. It took a while though for people to just get comfortable. I mean, I don't want to compare the two movements, but it's not that different from like LGBTQ people too, where it's like, when all of us were in school, it's like you might know a person who is gay, where it's like, now, of course you do. Like, why wouldn't you? If you know people, you totally do. And it took a while though. That's kind of this long game of,
it is a long game. We have to keep that in mind.
Stigma.
And that's again why I love those college campuses, because those kids are coming out. A lot of them are coming out of Christian households.
Right.
And they don't
and
they haven't been
with
exposed
this
to engaging with different kinds of people now.
Right.
And by the way, if you're watching this and you've got a connection to a college, hook me up. I love that more than anything. The energy on a college campus, the dialogue, the interaction with these students. God, I just love that stuff. So I'd love to do more of those.
And I want to come with Dave to the college campus. It's been a
bring Cynthia and me.
Bring me too. Bring me. Go ahead.
Kelly Laughlin, thank you. Hi, Dave and Cynthia. Hemant has been a great guest. Yes, indeed. Bill Castle, thank you for that $10 super sticker. I saw Sarah die. Where'd you go, Sarah? I'm losing my chat, but anyway, I did see Sarah Dye come in. Here's some money just because I love watching all of you, and much love to Sheila.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, everybody's loving Sheila. She's what a sweetheart. And I did see Will Judy. There's Kim Possible with that Antichrist donation. Every week we get that. 666. Love
Nice.
you. Great to see Hemant here. We watch him all the time. I saw
Awesome.
Will Judy pop up as well.
I did too. Hey, Will, how you doing? You were great
There he is.
on Black Non-Believers
Will.
last week.
Love you,
awesome.
buddy.
Yes.
Hemant, you mentioned something I want to come back to because I wanted to ask you about this. I kind of view you as Cynthia alluded to, as kind of a watchman on the wall here, kind of a gatekeeper with the work the atheist activist work you do.
Yeah.
But you mentioned the atheist movement, and that's it's a word a lot of us have trouble with. The atheist community. It's a very, it can be, yes, we're still taking calls, chai latte. It can be fractured at times, and we've seen some stuff in the last. I wasn't one very involved in it up until 3.5 years ago. I got diagnosed with ALS and started doing Dying Out Loud and started getting vocal and doing things like this and traveling and speaking. But since I've become a part of the atheist movement, I've seen a lot of shit that's disturbing.
Sure.
And we've got a lot of work to do, as you mentioned, Hemant. Where are we? How are we? What is our biggest challenge? What do we need to do the most?
This is actually when I give talks like this year, this happens to be what I'm talking about. But here's the gist of what I would get at. If you go back like 15, 20 years and you say like, what is the atheist movement? You got a bunch of different organizations of different sizes that really wanted to expose people to atheism, to try to make those arguments, to make it a safer space for people to come out as atheists. And some of them might focus on the legal aspects, some on the more humanistic aspects of it. But like that was kind of the overall shared goal by and large. And here's the thing. Today, in large part because of the work those groups did and individuals did. I mean, if you want resources for being an atheist, they exist. There are books, there are YouTube shows, there are podcasts, whatever you want, Reddit, whatever it is. There are places for you to go to get questions answered, to talk to other atheists. That's out there. Do people need to know about atheism? I mean, not as much as they used to. Like we said, the numbers of people who are non-religious, we're at like what, over 30 to 40% of US adults are non-religious.
Over 30%
and it jumps
now.
It jumps up to like 97% if you're under 20. I'm making that up, but like, you know what I mean? Like,
the numbers are large.
It's pretty large.
So this is what's interesting. So what do all these groups do now when being an atheist or coming out as an atheist is no longer that big of a deal by and large? And this is where it gets interesting, because some of the groups are focusing very much on like church-state separation, because that's very much a serious threat. And so their focus on atheism is something that actually aligns with a lot of progressive religious groups. And this is amazing, where you see a lot of like the Freedom from Religion Foundation, Americans United for Separation of Church and State, which is not an atheist group, but like when they file lawsuits, they end up doing it jointly with religious groups a lot of times. And it's like, is it an atheist thing now? Not really. It's something a lot of us agree with. I've seen a lot of groups say like, okay, well, if we are atheists, we should fight against religious oppression, whether it comes to reproductive rights or LGBTQ rights. And a lot of times that means fighting against the religious right, which means taking a more liberal stance on things. And so a lot of them are moving in a direction where they're fighting against religious oppression, but that makes it seem like, well, they've gone woke, they're too left, whatever. But they are fighting religion in a different way. It's not just about getting you to be an atheist. It's saying, well, let's talk about how religion actually affects society, and let's talk about where it's harmful, and let's fight against that. And so in a way, our movement has actually become broader, because the things most of the groups are fighting for is shared by a lot of religious groups too.
Mm.
And it's very much, I feel like a lot of these groups say, we'll put our religious beliefs on the back burner. Like, we'll save that for drinks afterwards. But for now, here's this thing we all need to fight against, and we'll work together on that front. So it's not weird to see American atheists and like the Baptist Joint Committee for Religious Freedom working together on an issue. And that's a good thing. By the way, a lot of the atheist activists I know who were staff members of a lot of these organizations, they are still activists. They are still nonprofit workers, but they work for civil rights organizations, or they work for other social justice causes. So, I mean, look, any movement, whether it's the gay rights one, whether it's trans rights, whatever, as they grow, there are absolutely going to be rifts that are, to the outsider world, like they're totally stupid. And they're going to happen. When you have a growing movement, there's going to be separation. Listen, there are a handful of atheists who are like, we're all for like Trumpism, and some who are like, we're very much against abortion. And like, that's a whole different conversation. They exist. They're a small fraction, but they exist. But like, that's gonna happen when you have a bigger movement. But if you're asking, where's the movement going? In a lot of ways, instead of us being on the offense and trying to get people to become atheists, we're just fighting religious oppression. And it turns out we have a lot of allies in that world willing to work with us openly. They're not ashamed of working with us, which in a way, like, that's a sign of accomplishment. Like, that's kind of what we were hoping for this whole time, to be get a seat at the table. So like, guess what? There is a congressional free thought caucus. There are atheists who run for office and get elected. Like, as of last week, there's one atheist Republican in friggin' Idaho who's going to win a Senate seat. Like, so, I mean, this is what happens when it's a growing movement. So in a way, like, it's not about atheism, but that movement has been successful, I think.
I do have a question, though, in that particular realm. With the growing number of those who consider themselves non-religious, and also the growing number of people who just say that I just don't believe. Yeah. Do you think that there's a need for politicians, like whether they are candidates and or elected officials, to really make room for those groups of people since they're growing? Like, what are your thoughts about that?
Do you mean, like, should they openly cater to non-religious people, or should they openly come out as such?
Well, I guess, like, I'm asking, like, you know, it's a little bit difficult to say cater, only because, like, you do see an issue, whether they are Republican or Democrat, where they're still very much so have a lot of God talk in their speaking. However, it can't be denied that, especially with young people, that you have a larger group of folks that are like, I'm not part of any type of religious organization. I don't really want to talk to church. I do have real issues that affect me as an individual, and it's outside of that. So, you know, so I guess more so my question is like, how can we utilize, I guess, this whole movement in order to kind of shine a light on that, in order for like candidates and also politicians to actually recognize that, so that they can really start to, you know, hone into some of the issues that, like, you know, this general constituency cares about? Yeah, Cynthia, such a good question, which I could go on forever. Let me try to give a couple quick answers to it. One is, Democrats specifically have a base of voters that is non-religious. They're not all atheists, but they're non-religious. That is the biggest segment, religious-wise, of their base. It's non-religious people. They don't have to say, like, I need atheists to vote for me. What they should do is to say, we're not going to let someone's religion, like, we're not going to put religion over the Constitution. We will fight for church-state separation. Like, candidates should easily do that if they want our votes, if they want to earn our votes and not just get them as a default. So that's one thing. I also wish they would cater to us, but maybe that's politically a bad move. But I will tell you this, like, I wish there were more candidates running for office who were openly non-religious. And there are, by last count, it's 60 or 70 at the state level or higher
who are
Mhm.
openly non-religious. These are state house members, state senators, one in Congress, and
Yeah, I was going
Kirsten
to say we got
Sinema for
one
some
atheist
reason.
in Congress. We got one
Yeah.
atheist in Congress.
But
Yeah.
but you got like 50 or 60 or 70, I forget the number, it changes. But like at the state level, that's a big deal.
Mm.
And here's why. Imagine this. If I say, hey, Dave over here is a professional atheist, because in a way he kind of is, right? If I say that, there is this assumption like your ultimate goal then is to convert people. You want or deconvert them, right? You want to make them an atheist. But if I tell you someone's main job is a politician, so Jared Huffman, like you mentioned, who is the one humanist in Congress, if he does his job well, his job is to make your lives, his constituents' lives better, right?
Mhm.
And if he does his job well, then he happens to be the guy who made our lives better, passed healthcare legislation, passed equality legislation. Oh, and by the way, happens to be an atheist. It's like the one job where if you do it well, you've made everyone's lives better, and it's easy to be an atheist. I do this in some of my talks. Like there was a survey that came out like a couple of years ago. Who's the first name who comes to mind when you hear the word atheist? The Pew Research Center did this survey, and it's like, well, who comes to mind? And I think like if you do the top 3 or 4 on the list, like Madeleine Murray O'Hair was like one of the top names, who famous atheist, started American Atheists, fought Supreme Court battles in the 60s, and then was killed like in the 90s. She's been gone for like 20 years. She's still the name who came to mind for most people. Okay. Like number 2 on the list was Richard Dawkins. That's not a surprise. Who was number 1 on the list? I mean, before I answer, just think about that for a second. Who's the number 1 person who came to mind when people thought of the word atheist? Answer: Satan.
No way.
Hilarious.
You're kidding me.
Answer given, which again, you all know why that's a dumb answer.
Satan believes in God. We know he believes in God.
Right.
Yeah, but that's the thing. Like,
deals with God.
Imagine if the number 1 person who came to mind was someone like, if you ask who's the most famous Christian or Catholic, it was like Mother Teresa. And I know, and the Pope, but like, I know Mother Teresa has her problems, but like her reputation is generally a good one. It's like, well, if that's the name that comes to mind, everyone's going to think you're all awesome as a default until they learn more. But like as an atheist, who are these role models? Like Richard Dawkins, and I have my problems with Dawkins, but like Richard Dawkins as an atheist, he is there to change your mind and to make you get rid of your faith. That's kind of his self-proclaimed thing. That's what he wants to do. And listen, I appreciate that. But if that's the person who comes to mind when you're an atheist, or even like Bill Maher was on that list somewhere, and again, has problems. But what is his goal when he brings up religion in his comedy? It's to get you to criticize religion. Yeah. But if there's a politician who happens to be a popular one, who also happens to be an atheist, it's like, this is just an awesome... It's like, what if the most famous doctor in the world happened to come out as an atheist, or Daniel Radcliffe comes out as an atheist and he's a popular actor? That stuff goes a long way to changing our reputation and all that. Yeah. So and I say all that, Cynthia, to go back to your question, like when it comes to politics, yes, I wish Joe Biden, I wish Democrats in general would cater to not atheists, but like church-state separation, reason, evidence-based legislation. We're not going to let religion dictate sex ed and how we treat trans people and all that stuff. Of course, that's important, and they can all do that without saying we're catering to atheists. But also, listen, if you're watching this right now, you don't have to run for Congress to make that difference, because you could run for your school board or city council.
Get involved at the local level. Right.
Yeah, I got my mail-in ballot for local elections and stuff, and I saw like 3 or 4 boxes. This is for like the Democratic primary in my area, where I saw no names. There's no one on the ballot for that seat. No one even wanted that seat. It's like, you guys. So I'm saying, if you're interested in running, I'm not asking you to run to push atheism on others, but I hope you're a reasonable evidence-based person. And we want people like that doing public service, doing those types of jobs, because that serves a dual purpose. You're in office. That's a good thing. But also you're helping as a whole change the reputation of atheists to get away from Mar being the spokesperson for all things atheist, which is not a good thing.
No.
To
No.
someone,
But
someone
you're right.
who's there
You're
to
right,
make
Hemant.
to someone who's there to make your schools better, you know?
Right.
It's the long game we've got to keep in mind, and
Yeah.
what can I do to make the whole better? Amit Matthew says, absolutely love hearing from Hemant. $10 super chat. Thank you.
I saw
we can
someone
talk
in the
about-
comment. I saw someone in the comments mention Kirsten Sinema. In case you're curious, Senator Sinema is technically listed as unaffiliated, but
Yeah.
does not answer the question and really hates it if you call her an atheist.
Oh yeah, because it's still a bad word in a lot of people's mind, and God,
Yeah.
we've
And
got a lot
also
of
she
work to
doesn't
do.
like taking positions on anything.
Yeah.
So,
Well, we've got this may be a quick call,
Yeah.
based upon the subject, but we'll take it just for entertainment value. Mr. Delicious, he, him in Montreal has proof Christianity is truth.
excellent. I've been waiting.
So, Mr. Delicious, tell us why you believe Christianity is truth.
Thank you very much for the hospitality, guys. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Perfect. First of all, I'd like to agree with you guys, which is very interesting. I also believe that there should be a separation between church and state. True Christians do not participate in worldly affairs, so we don't negotiate with anything that has to do with this world, because we're
Can
not
you
of this
tell
world.
that?
We
Can
live
you
in
tell
it.
all the other Christians that?
Yeah.
Well, they're not Christians. They don't keep the Sabbath, the 7-day Sabbath. They're not really Christians.
Okay.
So, Dave, I
Yes.
think we spoke not too long ago. I came on your show, and the little engagement that we had, actually published it on my channel. It was quite interesting.
Okay.
You
I
remember
don't recall.
my step? I'm sorry?
I don't recall. Refresh me. I'm sorry. I do a lot of these things.
I'm gonna
so-
refresh your memory, because I said I had proof that Jesus is sovereign over every single person, whether you're an atheist or whatever you believe. He
Okay.
has demonstrated power over you, and
Okay.
it's based on two infallible arguments, propositions. Number one, the God of the Hebrews is the author of the 7-day cycle, and proposition number two, he predicted its universal application as a sign of his authority over all nations. And we see that 2,000 years ago, Jesus Christ said he is Lord of the Sabbath. Therefore, wherever there's a 7-day week, there's a sphere of his influence.
I'm sorry to interrupt. Has this argument ever worked? Like, have you said this to people and then they were like, all right, I'm in?
That's a good question.
That's a good question. I mean,
I'm not even joking with you. I'm very curious if
I
this
understand.
argument has worked.
I'm going to answer your question. Here's the issue. Whether you accept it or not, the reality of the fact is I have provided an argument
So it hasn't worked, is what you're saying.
which demonstrates he has authority over you. So whether you accept the argument or not is not a refutation. The reality is his word has power to subjugate our reality. So that is what you need to argue against. If your argument,
so your answer to Hemant's question is it hasn't worked. No one has
it
recognized.
Worked. I didn't say it didn't work. What I'm saying is, as it relates to you guys, basically you would have to provide an argument against what I'm proposing.
Why?
No,
if you're gonna,
you don't.
Why? Why would we have to actually? You're the one who's making this proposition. You're the one who is saying that, Jesus did X, Y, and Z, and now we're subjugated to him because he said X, Y, and Z. So why do we have to argue against that if this is a claim that you're making?
Well,
you have no evidence to back up that claim.
Right.
I totally understand where you're coming from. Here's the problem. The first proposition, he's the author of the 7-day cycle, that's a claim. The second proposition is a demonstration of power over our reality. It's no longer a claim. You are subjected to a 7-day cycle as he predicted. This is something that can be easily verified. You
Where
keep
did
the
he
7 day
predict
week,
this?
therefore he is Lord over you.
Where did he predict this? Can I find the rock where he inscribed
Isaiah
it with his
66
finger?
Isaiah 66:23
The
is one
Bible.
example.
No,
Okay,
no,
so
you can't use the Bible to
Bible.
prove the Bible. You can't use the Bible to prove God. I don't care. I don't give a shit
Why
what
not?
the Bible says. I don't know who wrote
But
it.
why
It's
not?
not authentic. It's full of contradictions.
And
I'm not interested in what the Bible says. You can't prove reality by quoting a scripture.
no,
That's
you
not how
can't.
this works. That's
No,
not
no,
how
no,
this
no. I
works.
didn't prove. No. I didn't prove the Bible by proof. I didn't go to the Bible to prove the Bible. I went
You
to
go
the
to the Bible
to
to prove
it
reality.
has.
That's not how this works. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. Can I just make it clear my position, because you're strawmanning my argument. My argument is based on the fact that what the scriptures stipulate demonstrates power over our reality. So it's
You
not
keep
circular.
saying that as though when
since
you keep
it
repeating
affects-
it, it's going to make it true. It doesn't.
What did you say?
You keep repeating that phrase as though the more you repeat it, it's going to make it true. I think you've convinced
What
Hemant
is the phrase that I say? Can you repeat what
power
I said?
over our reality, that God has power
No,
over
no,
our
no. I didn't say that. You see, again, you're strawmanning. I said what's written inside of Scripture has showcased or illustrated power over our reality. The fact that it predicts every nation will keep a 7-day cycle when every nation kept a different cycle. That is what you need to argue against.
I think
That
we
is
should have a
demonstration of power.
rule. I think
So
we should have a rule on these shows that they shouldn't bring up an argument unless they have used it on someone and it worked and they can back that up. Then
And-
we can have that. Because
and
it's one of
also-
those things that it only works in their heads and it works in their circles
and
Yeah.
and here's
never outside of it.
And here's the thing with Mr. Delicious specifically, like he has called into
Go ahead.
several. Sir, you have called into several different shows. I've heard this
I
argument.
have.
Yes, a lot. I heard this argument a lot.
And
on
haven't
different
been
talk
refuted
shows.
yet.
It hasn't even
yeah,
been
yeah,
proven.
Yeah, actually,
It hasn't
yeah.
even been proven. Like, and the thing, and a lot of times it's because you're making I remember screaming this like while I was in my office one day, like you are making a
Okay.
lot of assertions in your claim, and then say, okay, now
Give me
prove
one
me wrong.
assertion.
Oh,
Well,
geez.
because
Can you give me one
you're saying
assertion?
that myself, Hemant,
Okay.
Dave, everybody in the chat, whatever, no matter what we believe, are subjugated to Jesus because he has claimed himself to be Lord of all, and you use Isaiah to prove your claim. Dave just told you that you can't use the Bible to prove your claim because the Bible is not
is
a
not my
reliable
argument.
document. It's
That is not my argument.
Sir, this is what I would suggest that you do. I would like for you to listen back to this call. I know I do this. They all do this.
No,
Listen back to this call and hear exactly what you said, because I heard what you said. And when we asked for proof, you said, because like Dave asked you, where are you getting this
Okay.
from? Like, where exactly, where is it written X, Y, and Z that this is what it is? And you said Isaiah,
Okay.
blah, blah, blah. I forgot this, the chapter and script in
Yeah, no
Warnock.
problem. No problem.
I
That's
said,
irrelevant.
you said
But go ahead.
Isaiah, it says X, Y, and Z. And then he said to
Exactly.
you cannot use the Bible to prove it because I'm telling you, because he said Bible's full of contradictions. It's not a reliable document. And it has not been used to prove anything. Just because you
Those
have
are
real
claims,
places,
right?
just because you have places like in the Bible that actually exist, we have not even shown anywhere, demonstrated anywhere inside the Bible where science it lines up that any of the fantastic things that has happened. So
No.
why are we going to use
You're
that
guys-
to actually use your particular
Who's talking
claim?
about science? I didn't
Okay.
talk about science.
I tell you what we're gonna do,
I said
Mr.
one thing.
I'm
I
sure,
said only
Mr.
one thing.
Delicious. I'm sure you're delicious. We're gonna let you go because we're going in circles here. We've actually got a few
No
more
problem.
calls, and we're almost out of time. Next time,
No
bring
problem.
a convert
Thank
with
you, guys.
you, as Hemant says. Bring someone it's
Yes.
worked on.
Buddy
Then you can
system
come back and
for the
talk to
callers.
us. Bring
That's
your
how this-
convert with you. See ya.
Cynthia, excellent job there.
Well done, Cynthia. Let's grab late here in the show. The screen is lighting up. I don't know what the hell's going on, but let's take Leo in Florida. He has a political question. It might. Oh my God, what's going on here? Okay, Leo, you're on with Hemant and Cynthia. Go. We've got just a few minutes.
Hello. I'm gonna have to be quick here, but I'm a
Yes.
big fan of all of you guys. But I will praise you guys next week. So my question today for you is, and for each of you individually, is: if you were to snap your finger and a law passes in United States, what would it be for you? What would you like to just all of a sudden happen, and that's a law in
Great
United
question.
States?
That's a really
Go
good
first, Hemant, as our special guest.
Yes.
Yeah, right. Thank you on the spot.
Yeah, I wanted you to go first.
I need to think about that one. Like, God, I just wish the system we had in place actually worked.
Mm.
Like the process, the way we choose things, like that in itself doesn't have to be bad. It just seems so broken to get shit done.
Yeah, I think
I could
to
deal
tag
with
onto that-
losing. I could deal with losing elections or my favorite candidates losing or something, but it seems like the whole process is broken. I just want to fix that. But if you gave me 3 more seconds, I'll come up with a new answer.
Well, and to that point, I mean, obviously there are some laws going down right now that we could point to specifically, but I think to tag onto what you said, Hemant, the system is so broken. I've said before that the political system being what it is, the people in office, the legislatures, they spend so much time campaigning for their next and fundraising for their next gig. They're not really doing the work that they were hired to do.
Yeah.
So a change in the system, the whole election system, to where you serve one term or a limited term or a limited couple of terms, you're not there for life.
Right.
That this doesn't become your career where you get rich and you keep your power.
It always amazes me when you hear some politicians, they were like, France got their election done the day of, or like they only campaigned for a month in this country or that country. It's like, I know, because they have a better system for elections than we
Our
do.
system's broken, and until we
wanna...
fix the system, we're going to be chasing our tail with these various laws. Real quick, Cynthia, you go.
Yeah, I know exactly which one. Reparations for the descendants of chattel slavery.
That's an easy one.
Yeah.
That's an easy one. Thank you, Leo. That was a great call, though. Sorry, we're running short on time. I want to grab one more call, and then we're going to have to close it out. I know we're running past. I don't want to keep you guys late, but thank you, Leo.
All right, thank you, guys.
Appreciate you calling in. Good night.
You.
We got Vans. I hope I said that wrong. I'm sure. From Maine, and hello, Vans. Vance, I'm sorry. Pronounce your name for me. I'm very sorry.
Vance.
Vance.
It's like
okay.
Lance, only with a V.
Vance. Okay. How are you doing? You're on with Hemant and Cynthia. Real quick. We're out of time.
I basically just wanted to call and say how much of a hero you and your colleagues are to me.
Wow. Thank you.
Oh,
thank you.
Thank you.
That's very nice of you.
And
Appreciate that.
I'm sorry that you have to put up with idiots like you were just talking to on your last call.
Well, I kind of suspected we would have that, but it was for entertainment value mostly that I took him, because we've all had these before him, and we know what we're getting into here. It's just,
it keeps us on our toes. How about that?
Yeah. But I appreciate you saying those kind words, Vance.
Yes, thank you.
I know you guys are running late, but I just wanted to read like one long sentence that I found on the internet a few years ago. I don't even know where I found it.
Okay.
But I thought that maybe atheists could use this as an opener.
Okay.
The more scientifically literate, intellectually honest, and objectively skeptical a person is, the more likely they are to disbelieve anything supernatural, including God.
That's good. That's good.
I like that.
Thank you, Vance. Appreciate you sharing with us. Thanks for calling in. Sorry we didn't have more time.
Yeah, me too. Or maybe I'll call back.
Yeah, call back anytime. We're on every week.
With a more in-depth.
I do want to say to you, and I'll let you go, but you can listen. But just as an intro into next week, we're going to have this is Mental Health Awareness Month, and we're going to have a show Next week, the mental health episode, we're going to have Dr. Del Rey on. Ethan Micheal, our producer, is going to be a co-host with Genevieve. I'm going to be gone, sadly, but we're going to talk about how the church basically dismisses mental health issues, or has in a lot of our histories, and a lot of our experiences, treating mental health with disdain, almost making it worse, heaping guilt upon you if you are struggling with mental health issues, depression or trauma or anything like that. So we're going to have a interesting conversation about that. If you've had experience with that, or something that's affected you in some way, we'd love for you to call in next week and be a part of the show. Cynthia, how can folks find you, and what are you up to before we go, real quick?
Okay, I am a regular on the Nonprofits that actually comes up every Sunday at 3 p.m. Central on Sundays, so please check that out. I'm also a regular on Atheist Women Unload on Skeptic Haven channel here on the YouTubies, and I also write a blog, freedmenhealthandwellness.com, which talks about the social determinants of health around people who come from chattel slavery. And I have a link tree. So yeah, check all that stuff out.
Thank you. And thanks for pinching tonight. You were great. So good to have you on.
Yeah.
Totally.
And Hemant, how do we find you? What's up next for you?
I don't know what's next. I don't know what I'm doing tonight. You can Google the closest pronunciation of my name. You'll find me. friendlyatheist.com works. At Hemant Mehta on Twitter. Yeah, you'll find me.
Well, thank you so much for being with us tonight. Thank you for all the work you've been doing for so long. You've helped so many people.
For the great company tonight. That was fun.
Yeah, it was a great time hanging out with you. And viewers and callers, thank you. People in the chat, all the folks behind the scenes helping put this show on. Thanks for everything, and we will see you next week.
Thank you.